So, good morning. Welcome to our Three Counties Church Daily Meditations. My name's David Wright. I'm one of the leaders here at Three Counties Church. Welcome to all our regulars. If you are new to the meditations, a huge welcome to you this morning. I thought that we would try to be a little bit more interactive this morning, so feel free to comment. Let me know if you're watching, say good morning to everyone, or comment as we go through this meditation. So this morning our meditation is on Psalm 20. This psalm is partly a blessing, it's partly a prayer, and it's partly a declaration. It appears to have been used by a king and his army before battle, perhaps the army chiefs praying it over the king. And the war we're in at the moment against coronavirus, it just made me think this psalm is particularly relevant. So let me read it. Psalm 20. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May he send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support from Zion. May he remember all your sacrifices and accept your burnt offerings. May he give you the desires of your heart and make all your plans succeed. May we shout for joy over your victory and lift up our banners in the name of our God. May the Lord grant all your requests. Now this I know, the Lord gives victory to his anointed. He answers him from his heavenly sanctuary with the victorious power of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. They are brought to their knees and fall, but we rise up and stand firm. Lord, give victory to the King. Answer us when we call. So I'm going to offer a few thoughts and then guide us in meditation and prayer around each thought. And there's 6 of them. So the first thing is this. This psalm acknowledges distress. It doesn't hide it away. It doesn't try to bottle it up. As Joanna said yesterday, it's important to acknowledge how we're feeling. And I've had the chance, particularly with my work, to ask quite a lot of people how they are coping with the current crisis, with isolation. And some are actually quite enjoying it, getting time by themselves, getting time with their families. But some are finding it really difficult. Some are maybe finding there's too much time, and that's not good. Some are actually finding they're more busy, more pressured with work than ever before, and that's difficult too. And some are concerned about vulnerable loved ones. Some may have friends or relatives that are battling with this disease right at the moment. So why don't we just pause for a couple of seconds and acknowledge how we're feeling about the coronavirus situation, about isolation, about life in general. Maybe even multiple different feelings you have all at the one time, sometimes conflicting, and that's okay. So the psalm acknowledges distress. The second thing is God's promises. There's so many promises in this psalm. The first one is to answer us. Bono described God's telephone number as Jeremiah 33 verse 3. Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. So I'll give a shout out to the first person who comments the U2 song that references. So God promises to answer us. He promises to protect you, to send help, to grant you support, to accept your offerings, to give you the desire of your heart, to make your plans succeed, to grant all your requests. There's so many promises in this psalm. Let's pause. Let's pause now just to take those in. Amazing promises. Why don't you just choose one and really thank God for it? So, third thing, God's promises are tied to our responsibilities, and theologians sometimes call these the means of grace. How we access God's promises, how we access his grace. And there's a few in these first 5 verses of Psalm 20 to call on God, to make requests, to make sacrifices, and to present offerings to God, to celebrate in victory, to lift up our banners in God's name. What does that mean? Well, to nail our colours to his mast, to support his cause. Let's just take a moment to consider our responsibilities. Fourthly, what is the desire of your heart? Verse 4, may he give you the desire of your heart and make all your plans succeed. Note that this psalm was addressed to the king. He is the subject is referred to in verse 6 as the Lord's anointed. Could this be referring to King David, perhaps? We know that he was a man after God's own heart. Acts 13 verse 22 references that. What's the desire of your heart? We talked as Three Counties Church at the beginning of the year about posturing our hearts towards God's presence. Sometimes our hearts can be distracted by so many things, by busyness, by stuff, by pleasures. God is after your heart. If God gave you the desires of your heart, would that be a good thing? And one of the questions I'm pressing into is, what is God doing in this season? I don't believe for a moment that God sent this crisis to us, but I do believe that he can use it. When many people are just distracted by busyness, by hurry, by so much things to do, I wonder if he is giving time to explore our hearts before him. As we pause, maybe let's just let's offer our hearts to him. As Jesus taught us, your name be hallowed, your kingdom come, your will be done. May this be the posture of our hearts. Fifth, hope. Verse 6 says, now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. That's a declaration of hope. It's not fickle hope in the way we sometimes use hope these days, but it's a confident hope. The psalmist has had experience of God saving before. He knows God's character. Did you see in verse 1, may the name of the God of Jacob protect you? He's aware of God's name, his nature, his character, which doesn't change. God's name is to save. And the psalmist can have certain hope because he knows that God's character, his very nature, is to rescue his people. Let's just pause for a second and let that sink in. God will rescue us. We can have that certain hope because it's his very nature. And finally, trust. This comes back to us. The psalmist outlines the choice here in a time of crisis, in a time of war. The choice between trusting in the things that we can see and touch. In his context, it was chariots and horses, or trusting in God. In our context, this might be the choice to trust in hospitals or doctors or science or medicines or vaccines. They are all good things. King David didn't neglect his army. He would have bought chariots and built up his army and sort of built up his stock of horses. That's being a good king and a wise king. But when it came to where his trust lay, his trust weren't in those things. His trust was pointed towards the name and the character of his God. Some trust in chariots and horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. I'm thankful for the Nightingale Hospital and that's set up. I'm praying for more testing to be available. I'm praying for more personal protection equipment to be made available for our health workers. I'm praying for more treatment, medicines and vaccines to be developed and rapidly made available. But I'm not trusting in those things. My trust is in the Lord our God. So why not just take a moment to consider where your trust is pointed? And if it's not in God, why don't you just mentally picture your trust lifting up from wherever it is, from those things it might be on, and moving across and being placed in God. Just picture that in your mind and declare, my trust is in the name of the Lord. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. And may you know God's victory today as you trust in him. Bless you.